The following episode of Critical Weeb Theory will have some pretty mild spoilers to a bunch of anime we've been watching recently, so that includes Kekkai Sensen, Baccano, Durarara, Brave of the Six Flowers, Death Note, and Punchline. Also, as a fair warning, we had some audio hiccups this time around. This episode does not sound the best, and we're kind of focusing on getting our guest episodes done. So if you'll bear with us this week, we figured you'd still want to see it. Still want to listen to it. Whatever. With that out of the way, please enjoy. A good route to go on for that essay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. Durarara. Oh, wait, no, we forgot one. We forgot Brave of the Seven Flowers.
How did we forget Roka no Yusha? Well, everyone else also forgot Roka no Yusha, so I feel a little less bad about it.
But still, no, that was... It's like a hidden gem. If you haven't seen Roka no Yusha...
it's so good!
It's so good.
It's like the best show you've never seen.
Yeah, that's...
How's it? Meow. Hello. Is that too many?
I think it's the right amount of hellos, personally.
I'm Raghava. Pronouns are anything other than she.
And I'm Mo. Pronouns are he, him.
And welcome back to Critical Weeb Theory episode. And this one's going to be a bit of a short one because Mo and I are both very exhausted, both with life, general physical ailments, and of course, perhaps most importantly, preparing for our wonderful guest episodes, which will happen starting next week. But at the same time, we didn't want to leave you with nothing. You want to just vent in vague, non-specific terms?
Sure, I guess. I don't know. I live with the constant anxiety that things that I want to get done aren't getting done because I have to do other things. And I'm also physically ill right now. And hopefully that works out. It will. I'll be fine. Listen, I'm not a baby. I'll be fine. But it's just the confluence of things being, and I got my grad school decision soon. Screams. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. I just, I think one of the things that does help, at least in moderation, is really working on these, because it gives me a sense of control and productivity. I get to do a thing that other people say they really like and appreciate it. So, yeah. Thanks so much for sticking around.
Yeah. We have been watching lots of anime. We just finished watching the latest Egg episode, which is that of 2/24, which was excellent, very good, but we just talked about it, so what meaning in there is going back over that, right?
Yeah. Should we do content warnings for the end? Because I don't want people to just jump into it. Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, there's if you haven't heard, there's a content warning for self-harm.
Yeah.
In the latest Wonder Egg Priority episode, so.
Yeah, and it's not a little content warning. It's really heavy. Yeah, so just be a little careful. I was not aware of the content warning before I came in. There were many audible hums and audible I don't know what other most sounds I have. I think I have hum and
cried.
Yeah, they did. It was really something else. But we will move right along from Egg. We've been watching... Goodness. We finished Punchline. We finished Baccano. We're almost done.
Uh-huh.
We finished the first season of Kekkai Sensen. We're almost done with the second one.
Yeah.
We're sort of in the first third of Death Note.
Soon also on the watch list are Overlord, which we are going to get to, and I really want to revisit Code Geass.
Oh yeah, those two will be great. The Overlord watch was actually at the request of one of my $15 patrons. So if you want me to watch something, I will watch it eventually when I have the time, and I will write an actual so there will be like an Overlord take that I hope the person will enjoy, that I hope the rest of you will enjoy as well. So yeah.
All right.
Where do we start?
Well, in the order they were introduced. So, Punchline.
Okay.
How do you feel about Punchline?
I've had a little bit of time to think about it.
Oh no.
No, I think my opinion has only improved on Punchline. So yeah.
Really? First, for those who aren't aware, Punchline is an anime written by Kotaro Uchikoshi, if you know him from the Zero Escape series, which is a series I'm fond of, which was the reason I watched Punchline in the first place for the first time. And I remembered liking it.
Mm-hmm.
So I made Mo rewatch it with me, and show's very funny.
Yes.
And it's about saving the world.
Exactly.
I'm terrible at descriptions.
Yeah, but that was a pretty apt description. Basically, we had Yuta, Mikatan, Ito, Meika, Durarara, the fucking horny cat. That's his name. Okay, Pine. Muhi. Okay. We'll get to Muhi. The best character. Okay. And so basically, what we have here is a show about a dude who gains superpowers when he sees panties, right?
Well, first he dies
first he
in the
dies.
first episode, and he comes back as a ghost.
Yes. And as a ghost, if he sees panties twice, he ends all life on Earth. So it's quite literally a race against the horny here.
But if he sees it once, he just gets superpowered. So it's like you gotta hit that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little horny, puts a skip in your step. A lot of horny, absolutely devastating. Needs several bonks. I feel like we're doing a bad job of why the show is good. But yeah, it starts out as kind of a very funny, but also very horny sort of classic sci-fi action, magic sort of. It's in that sweet spot between sci-fi and fantasy.
Mm-hmm. One of the cool things Punchline does is it manages to be ecchi without, I think, demeaning the characters. And as with, I think, all erotic material, your mileage will vary based on your perspective. I happen to think that Punchline is tolerable in a way that few other shows really are. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it owns up to what it's doing, rather than what a lot of anime tries to do when it's like, ooh, here's this contrived bullshit excuse to shove panties in your face. Now I'm going to act all embarrassed about it.
Yeah, and I think one thing that really helps Punchline's case is that all the characters are just like good. They're like all well developed, well rounded people, and you like. I guess there. I guess okay. So here's the thing about like a lot of like anime when it comes to like sexualizing people is that like. I mean, in the like the term objectification, like what it refers to is literally like the process of turning like a fully complex and multifaceted human being into an object for sexual gratification, right? And
you know who's an object?
Like
Chizuru
from yes. Like, okay, actually, Rent a Girlfriend is I don't want to get into it too much, but it's like a really good like counter. It's pretty perfect in the sense that like none of the Rent a Girlfriend girls are like people, right? They all exist for the one specific purpose. Shizuru exists to be hot and date the main character. Mami exists to be hot and to be a foil. Ruka exists to be hot and to be the love triangle character that won't work out. And Sumi exists, right? And so, like, when you're...
I still can't get over the fact that they were like, we gotta have Sumi in the anime. She's only there for like 15 minutes.
She gets one episode. Remember that one? Okay, we're getting
She doesn't even get a whole episode. She's barely there.
Remember like the one sequence that was just like Sumi-chan giving things a shot, and it's just a slideshow of Sumi doing things. And it's just all just so that Kazuya can date another girl. Why? Rent a Girlfriend. What an absolutely tragic waste of time.
I'm so behind on the things I need to write about that show. I need to get on that.
Yeah, but when it's done, it will be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, like, so like when Rent a Girlfriend, for example, has like a panty shop or like a boob shop or whatever, it just like solidifies like why female characters were even like included in the show in the first place. Meanwhile, when you have Punchline, like you can have like a panty shot, but then if you like incorporate that like into the character, while the character also has like pretty complex things going on that are like outside of like the sexuality of like the main dude, suddenly it just becomes like part of the show, you know? It's like part of like one of the things that you'll either like or not like about it, you know? And that's something that I appreciate quite a bit. Like I complain a lot about like sexist anime, and unfortunately that means I have to complain a lot about fucking ecchi, because that's like the main vector for a lot of sexism in anime. But like I'm not like anti ecchi. Like we addressed this in the first episode, right? The bad anime defenses. Like we're not anti horny. It's just like just do a story, do characters at the bare minimum.
The show also subverts, basically bypass two of my least favorite tropes, which is forgive the fascists and redemption equals death. It does neither of those.
It explicitly rejects it too. Like the main antagonists towards the end of the story, they realize that they're incorrect. And they want to use this opportunity to like redeem themselves through sacrifice. And the story says, no, you have to live with trying to commit genocide, which is what they try to do. You have to live with that.
And you have to atone for that.
And a different character ends up making the sacrifice instead. So they, like, as that character's final act of defiance, they like deny the villain any chance to just like die and wipe their hands clean and be remembered as a good person. That was really powerful.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're missing probably, I don't want to say like the most novel thing about Punchline, but like one of the more important aspects is that it does a gender, and it does a trans.
Yes. Yes, I think it does. Your mileage will vary, I think, but I am of the opinion that Punchline has positive trans representation.
Yeah, and I will support and echo that. It does do a trope which I've seen. I've seen some trans people, I think, like rightfully sort of push back against, where the character is like born in like a cis male body, but then they're like moved to like a body that used to belong to like a cis woman, and so that can kind of entail ideas of like, oh well, if you just like the idea of like
bioessentialism,
yeah, like you're not like in the wrong body, you're like in your body, and you either need support to like make it more aligned with you or not, or because like if you go down that road, then you get a whole bunch of like, you get into the, I'm doing a bad job explaining this, you get into like a territory where like politicians are like means testing like who gets to have the resources they need, who doesn't, blah blah blah. One thing I will say, and it actually we started this talking about how Punchline isn't ecchi. One thing I will say is that the fact that the show is so horny, I think actually plays into the strengths of the trans rep in a way. Because what you have is like, so like anime has like a bunch of like cultural signifiers, right? And one of them is that if you have a dude and you have a harem show, like the dude's gonna be like, you know, a little pervy, right? You're gonna get the nosebleeds, you're gonna get the panty shots, you're gonna get the boobs, blah blah blah. And so like to like do a lot of those tropes, but instead of like having like a cis dude there's like a trans dude there, I think sort of says like, and just have like nothing else change other than the fact that you can see this person as male as like any other male character in anime, I think is like an interesting decision. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I also reject the idea of just like I talked about this in my Misfit essay, like just like putting like the whole like representation of just like, if you have like an oppressive power structure, just putting a different person at the top. But I don't think that's what this is. I think it's more just like, you can take maleness and you can apply it to a group of people who still in many contexts need maleness like validated and recognized. So
yeah,
Punchline pretty solid. There are a couple there are a couple of screenshots that you can take out of context to make it look anti-imperialist. I don't know if I'm ready for the Punchline to socialist argument quite yet. I don't think it's there.
I mean, it's not imperialist.
Yes. Critical support for the anti-imperialist fighters of Punchline and Justice Punch. I think we did Baccano next, right?
Yes, we did. We did.
The OP is very good. It's very catchy.
Talk about Baccano.
Sure. So, Baccano. Basically, we have... Wow, Baccano's only like 12 episodes, but there's like a lot going on. We have a large cast of characters who are all involved in Chicago's criminal underworld. And it revolves around a group of people who, in the 1700s, summoned the devil and asked him for the secret to immortality. And the devil was like, yeah, okay, here, take it. And they took it. And now there's like 100 or so people, and they're just like immortal, and they have all sorts of other wacky powers, right? And they all meet on this train from Chicago to New York called the Flying Pussyfoot. And there's a lot of blood, a lot of murder, a lot of death.
You're making the show seem a lot more clear-cut than it is. One of the cool things about Baccano is it tells the story out of order. That is, bounces between timelines, not just episode to episode, but even like on occasion, scene to scene. It will have a scene that takes place in 1930, and then another scene that takes place in 1932, long after and directly impacted by the events of the first scene, or sometimes in the other order.
You will get like scenes from after the season finale, before in episode 2 or episode 3.
And I think it is a testament to the craft that went into making Baccano that, one, you can follow it, and two, there is still narrative tension. Even if, even if the show basically spoils you in ways about what's going to happen, and you still want to watch more, and it's really interesting. Even as a testament to all of that, as Ragla pointed out, when I was thinking, how do I describe Baccano? I reassembled the show into the chronological order of, there were a group of people who summoned the devil and blah blah blah, and then there was a flying pussy, and then there was a train called the Flying Pussyfoot, and then they had to fight on the train. Right? You don't even know about the people who summoned the devil until episode 17.
It is back.
I'm sorry.
So it is back half of the show when you learn that they're immortal because they summoned the devil, right?
Yeah. Show's very exciting, very cool. It's got good crime noir vibes, gangsters and stuff.
It's got
some
Isaac
of the most
Miriam.
interesting and some of the most interesting and charismatic characters there are. If you do watch Baccano, I strongly recommend you watch the 4-episode, I want to say, OVA, because it is just the best part of Baccano. You won't appreciate it if you don't watch the whole season, and obviously you don't like the main series, you won't like the OVAs, but if you do happen to like the main season, the first 13 episodes of Baccano, the last 4 episodes are just chef's kiss. They're leagues above a show that was already really good and just very strong.
The one thing I will say, I guess, the analytical spiel on Baccano is that from its culture to its sound design to its aesthetic to even the time period where it's drawing from, it draws a lot from Black culture, but there are very little Black characters in Baccano. So it's not I feel especially on Twitter and stuff, when I try and point out how different anime handle issues, people boil it down to okay, Mo thinks the show is racist, or Mo thinks the show isn't. And so if you want a clear answer, is Baccano racist? The answer is no. Okay, but there's still things to talk about either way. It's very it's very interesting because okay, 1930 Chicago. It's the height of the Depression, right? What else is going on in the U.S. during this time? Well, it's the first great migration of Black people from the South to cities to find job opportunities. That took place throughout the entirety of the U.S. 20s.
the whole reason why we get, like if you like Baccano's OP, if you like the jazz, if you like the soundtrack, the whole reason why all those sounds exist is because of Black culture in the presence of cities like Chicago, like New York, Boston, to like a lesser extent. Boston's pretty quiet. Right. And so it's kind of weird to have a show set in those places at that time, and it's just like, there's like 3 black guys, you know. It's not something, like, if you're not thinking about it and you're not thinking about the history, you will like not notice it. But like the second you notice it, the longer you watch it, the longer it's like weird. It's like this. There's like a force, you know, that's supposed to be in the show, and it's like, no.
You would have to be aware of the history of 1930s America, which, to be fair, if you were setting something in 1930s America,
Kekkai Sensen, I think, is the next one you watch.
Yeah, season 2 is better than
by
season
a lot.
1. It's also like more problematic than season 1 at times.
By a fair amount.
Oh boy! All right.
Okay. So Kekkai Sensen. It's a. How would I describe this? It's not like a shonen, is it? Hold on. It doesn't really have the shonen tropes, but it's like.
Yeah, it's a shonen.
I mean, okay, it has. Okay, it feels a lot like Kill la Kill. And if you feel like Kill la Kill, you're definitely a shonen.
Mm-hmm. I would say that Kekkai Sensen is an absurdist comedy that at times forgets that it's an absurdist comedy and tries to be serious, but it doesn't succeed in being serious and impressing upon you the value of human life when it's a show that casually says there were 100,000 casualties from
X thing.
Rocks falling from the sky, and that just happens. Every episode there is a comical amount of depth and absurdity and just living in so to go over the premise a bit before I get too far ahead of myself, the idea is that this portal opened up in New York City, and now there are a bunch of creatures from the other world in New York City. It's now called Hell Salem's Lot, and it is literally hell on earth.
Yep.
People just die in absurd and comical ways. And it's really funny.
It's really funny. There are scenes where like
really funny.
Like the main character gets on a train and they'll be like, "This route has a 30% survival rate," and everyone's just on the train like, "Oh, it's up today."
Right, and that's a hilarious joke. And this is at once Kekkai Sensen's strong suit and weak suit. Its strong suit is that if you like absurdist comedy, and I happen to like it, and you like weird and wacky things, and I happen to, it's very funny, and you get a lot of mileage out of watching interesting things. But again, like I said, its downside is that the world is so absurd, and if you try to take it seriously, it just comes off as incredibly tragic. Because hundreds of thousands of people just die every day, and people still live here for some godforsaken reason.
Yeah, you go down this whole rabbit hole of like, why are people living here? Or if they are, why are they not like organizing to like make life better? Like, especially since like in my personal life, I just got done with like a pretty big organizing effort around like the polar vortex that we had over the past couple of weeks. And it's like, when things go to shit, people either leave or they try and they like help each other, right? And like, when you don't see it in Kekkai Sensen, and Kekkai Sensen also asks you to take it seriously, then you start asking all these questions that are just, and then the show just doesn't have the answers.
The show, the show really can't get you to be like, wow, it's so tragic that people are dying, when like just the previous episode it was like, lol, 20% survival rate on this train. That just doesn't work out like at all. And when I say season 2 is a lot better than season 1, is entirely because the show does not take itself nearly as seriously.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of, season 2, it kind of learns we can do character episodes, and they do the character episodes very well. And we can do comedy, and they do the comedy very well. But we don't have to talk about, like, the fragility of the human condition and, like, the testament to mankind's, like, stick-to-itiveness or whatever, because it doesn't work in a show like Kekkai Sensen. It's just not, like, built to do any of that. I called it on Twitter. I think I called it the himbo anime. Right. Because it's dumb and pretty.
It does not. It does not have anything meaningful to say about the human condition, but it does not have to be entertaining to watch. That's the take on Kekkai Sensen. Can you skip season 1 to just watch season 2? Probably. Would I recommend it? I mean, season 1's not bad.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing. Like, watch season 1. No, it's not the best the show has to offer. Stick through it to the end.
Every once in a while, Mo's Twitter account just becomes a chain stan account.
Oh, yeah. Where's the... Is that the title of the... That's the title of the episode. This is now a chain stan account. I don't know. I'll think of something. But yeah. Kekkai Sensen, pretty decent. Gosh. Then we have Death Note, which I am not terribly far enough in.
We're not going to talk. I think we far enough in. We're far enough in Death Note that I think we get to, because like Death Note's already laid out its cards. I think we can definitely say at the very least one. If you talk about Death Note without doing a class analysis, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
How can you not?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely,
staring at you right in the face.
I think enough people know what Death Note is.
Mm-hmm.
That simply, it needs no introduction other than, yeah, it's worse than you remember it. I think definitely, especially after watching Akutama Drive, one of, I think, the best explorations of specifically
like police
criminality.
brutality. Yeah.
But more than just police brutality, criminality, what it means to mark someone as a criminal, and going into Death Note, which just wholeheartedly accepts the premise that criminals are bad and therefore deserve punishment.
Yeah.
Right? We never get to explore the lives of people who have been convicted of crimes in Death Note. Nor do we ever see a shred of empathy directed towards them, even when Light is like, oh no, these people with lesser crimes got killed. We never really get to explore the human cost associated with that because we are not asked to. Death Note's question is not, are criminals bad and do they deserve to die, but rather, is this the person who should be
executed by
doling out the punishment, right?
Yeah.
It is, do we execute the criminals with the state, or does this kid get to execute criminals? But at the end of the day, whether or not the criminals deserve to be executed is never the question being asked.
Yeah, from the episodes I did watch, there's a really interesting line. It's like when Light, the protagonist, and L are like, they're like going back and forth, and I forgot the exact circumstances, but it was like something like he was, L was like talking about how like Light could like, if okay, I remember that. So L was talking about why he doesn't want to tell the media not to report the names and faces of like, to like hide the names and faces of like people in prisons, right? So that Light can't kill them, right? And he said, well, if we did that, then he would just start killing innocent people. And we have to ask, whose life is it? The criminals. or the people, right? And like L makes the decision that like obviously the criminals' lives are like less worth saving. It's like a quick like two like one or two lines in an episode that I don't think would get much attention otherwise. But like when I heard it, and I think it was one of the episodes I watched out here. But when I heard it, I was like, yeah, the show just it doesn't think criminals are worth worth anything, right?
And part of it is because as I have become a leftist, I have become more cognizant of abolition work going on. Another part of it is that I watched Akudama Drive, which I think can be read in parallel and as an antithesis to Death Note.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely the fundamental, I want to say, sin of Death Note is that it accepts the premise that criminals are bad unambiguously, and moreover, it does not even think that that question is worth discussing. A lot of times when we discuss works, we talk about the text, right? Mm-hmm. This show said a sexist thing, or this show said a racist thing, or this show said a pro-police thing. But I think just as often, it is important to analyze that which a show omits. Right. That which the show considers common knowledge, not even worth bothering to spend screen time analyzing. Mm-hmm. And it's not like Death Note doesn't try to have its shitty philosophical battles. It does. Its questions are just about ego.
Mm-hmm. I got into an interesting back and forth with someone on Twitter who wanted to claim that Death Note isn't nearly as bad as we're complaining about because light is portrayed as incorrect, right? And this is one of these things where I'm not sure if we did this in Bad Anime Defenses, but it is like a subtle like mistake I see people making, where you have a character. I got into a similar back and forth with like Shield Hero, by the way, but like Shield Hero is a little less justifiable than this, where the person said like Shield Hero isn't problematic because Naofumi is wrong, right? But like Shield Hero, it doesn't pertain to Naofumi is wrong at all. Naofumi just does bad things. But like Death Note is a little bit more complicated because there are like
people in Death Note who say light is wrong, but why?
Yeah.
What do they think light did wrong?
Yeah.
It's not like they think light is bad for like. It's not like they think he is wrong about criminals. It's not like they think he is wrong about are humans fundamentally good or evil. It's not like they think he's wrong about, I don't know, the police, for example, right?
Yeah. Like, both Light and L really like the cops. They think that the cops are a force for good. They think that the people who the cops arrest deserve it. They think that the people who the cops spend the most time harassing and arresting are the reason why society is as bad as it is. Right. Light and L disagree with...
There's a moment when it says that because Light, like Kira, started killing criminals, crime rates have dropped. This is like in the second or third episode. This is in the second episode, right?
Yeah, and the show says, like, well,
it's not just
crime rates have dropped.
Wait. It's not Light that says that. It is the police who say that, the quote-unquote unbiased objective party.
Yeah.
And so it's not like the show's stance here is not ideologically neutral.
Mm-hmm. Like, and it's not like, so the show then, like, the problem it has with Light is that, like, it says, yeah, okay, the world would be better off if we just killed all these criminals. But killing them personally is wrong. And that's, like, that gets you into, like, problems, like, with real-world abolition work. I mean, if you want to talk, for example, about the ongoing pandemic, right? Like, obviously, if you ask every American, do you think we should just start, like, executing the people in prisons? Most of them would say, like, no, that's barbaric. We shouldn't do that. We put them in prison as an alternative to killing them. However, COVID rates in prisons are fucking astronomical. And nobody gives a shit, right? Like, we have tacitly decided that, like, executing a bunch of people like they do in, like, Saudi Arabia or whatever, right, is like, we're above that because we're like, we're a Western country, a democracy, blah, 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 right? But, like, letting them die slowly to disease, that's fine, I guess. And the reason why is because we have,
I just wanted to add that it isn't even just after COVID started that it's been like this. Like, there have been, like, isolation chambers, forced labor, being unable to get a job after you get out of prison. All of these factors have always been there.
Right.
That effectively, like, makes it shit.
So, like, Death Note has the ideology that allows these things to happen. It's this idea of, like, if I don't personally pull the trigger, but I do let them die in other ways that I can reasonably say are not my fault, then that's fine. Right. But it's not fine. And that's why we're kind of not happy with Death Note. That, and it's, like, poorly written. But that's, like, secondary to the CWT style.
We ended up having a side digression about Death Note and abolition. And I'm sure once we finish Death Note, we will have an even more interesting discussion to say about Death Note and abolition. Like, Death Note and Nakajama Train.
Yeah, we could probably...
Chef's kiss.
If I did, I've been mulling over, like I said at the beginning, I'm very busy, and stressed, but I've been mulling over, a quote, Light Yagami is a fucking Nazi essay. And I suppose in the essay, I mean, he is.
Like, he literally is, and it's not even like he gets bad later. He's like, just...
he immediately, he gets a book that can kill anyone. And his first thought is not, like, Henry Kissinger, the people who like torture, prisoners in Iraq, the leaders of the world's most, like, brutal dictatorships. Nah, it's like poor people in jail. Fuck them.
He literally is like, I'm going to clean up all of the degenerates.
He's literally just a Nazi. He commits a genocide by notebook. Right. But yeah. But like a Death Note versus Akudama Drive side by side would be like a good route to go on for that essay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. Durarara. Oh wait, no, we forgot one. We forgot Brave of the Seven Flowers.
How did we forget Roka no Yusha? Well, everyone else also forgot Roka no Yusha, so I feel a little less bad about it.
But still, no. That was. It's like a hidden gem. If you haven't seen Roka no Yusha,
it's so good.
It's so good.
It's like the best show you've never seen.
Yeah. That's the one way to put it. It's basically.
Wait. Question. We'll ask it. No, ignore this. I'll ask at the end. Okay. Carry on.
Yeah. So, basically, you know that hit and popular game for children, Amogus?
That's not even accurate, right?
Sort. Yeah. I mean, it's got that same. It's a fantasy that's set in South America. It's got like a lot of like really clear like indigenous roots to it, which is really interesting.
It's
well, not
definitely,
roots.
Yeah, it's definitely drawing creative
Inspiration.
Aesthetic inspiration from the civilizations of South and Central America. Well, I actually don't know enough to say for sure whether it is South and Central America, which goes to show how unqualified I am to talk about how that aesthetic is being handled, or whether it's being used respectfully or not. All I can say is that it was definitely a welcome change of pace from
Europe.
Yes.
Stop making fantasy shows set in medieval Europe. Holy fucking shit. Stop doing it.
Yeah. I'm sure if it was set instead of based on, I want to say, I don't know enough to say, but based on South American civilizations, if it was instead based on Indian civilizations, I would have a lot more to say about how it handles that, but I don't. And if someone else has written about it, you should listen to them.
Yeah.
And it's not me.
Yeah. But the setting is a nice change of pace. And it essentially revolves around you've got like your standard fantasy anime setup. Like there's a demon king who wakes up, who threatens to destroy all life on the continent, and so a couple of heroes are summoned to defeat him. Like, and it starts out. It's got like these big like sweeping shots of like landscapes, and like you really like the first couple of episodes. You really think you're going on like a grand adventure, right?
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is that all the heroes meet up, and they get locked in like a space that's enclosed.
Well, okay. So this happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
It starts doing this in episode 4.
Yeah. So you've got 4 episodes of like slaying monsters, traveling to new places, saving the villagers, standard fantasy buildup.
And but it's not even standard though, because it's good.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like none of these fucking isekai that are airing this season.
Okay. So I want to just real quick do to like, for example, a show that does something very similar to this is Talentless Nana, which is a show I still don't like, and I know I am now in the minority of that, but I think most people can generally agree that Talentless Nana's first episode is not great because it's just doing this one thing, and it's really bad at this one thing before it says at the end of the first episode and sitting in the second episode, by the way, we're now doing something completely different.
Right.
And so the change in quality from the show it was pretending to be, which was not very good, to the show it actually is, which is better. It's pretty stark.
Right.
Yokon no Yusha does not have that problem. Not only is it not just like one episode before it dramatically changes, but it's also like those 4 episodes feel good on their own in a way that legitimately makes you feel like you're being set up to go on a journey, which makes the inevitable, well, I say inevitable Among Us game, but it's like literally in the synopsis.
Like I read the synopsis before watching it, and then I watched the first couple episodes, and I was like, this wasn't in the synopsis. And then like end of episode 4, episode 5, like, okay, this was in the synopsis. But like, but
you can't cut out those first 4 episodes because they have so much weight for what the show's inevitable emotional arc ends up being. Also, a thing I really
and they contribute to the mystery.
They
literally contribute to the mystery.
They changed the opening for episodes 4 through 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's literally a different OP when the show changes from being like a fantasy game to being an Among Us section. So we keep saying Among Us. Let's actually explain that. So essentially, when they all
think we have to. Well, I think we can. It's spoilers.
It's spoilers. I guess so. I just want to say, like, basically, when the 6 heroes finally meet up, they realize that they are actually 7. That's like it's not terrible. That's not a terrible story. And so, like, the rest of the story is just who's like the fake, like who's the imposter. And they do it. They find out it is nail biting. You get misdirected a bunch of times. And I genuinely could not guess who it was at the end. But it was like one of those mysteries where, like, once you do find out, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Oh, and it not only that, but, like, wait, that was a hint? Like, this character acting this way, that wasn't just them being blah, blah, blah. Like, that was an actual hint you were giving me?
There's a lot of intentionality, and one of the great things, because I rewatched Boku no Yusha, is how many things I could, like, spot and be like, oh, yeah. Show's really good.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of it. There is one thing I should warn you about. It ends on a cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah.
And there will probably never be a second season.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those, just got one season and it deserves
terrible. It's criminally underappreciated. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word.
It's time. Abolish prisons except for the people who decided that Boku no Yusha doesn't get a second season. Okay. I'm glad I caught that.
I'm still really happy of, like, oh yeah, we forgot Boku no Yusha, but so did everyone else.
Right. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so then, I guess the last show, we haven't really watched a lot of this, is Durarara. It was made by the same person who did Baccano. And you can sort of tell.
Oh, wait. Before we move on to Durarara, I just want to, if you don't understand how good Boku no Yusha is, Mo and I watched 9 episodes in one sitting because we were just that engrossed.
Oh yeah, we needed to know who it was. We needed it. We craved.
Well, you needed to know.
I needed to know. You knew, but I needed to know, and I was like, who is this imposter? Right?
There are shows I'm like, at times I get tired of them. And I'm like, I don't really feel like watching this show right now. I feel that way about Kekkai Sensen in season 2 from time to time, but like, Boku no Yusha is just like, whew.
Once it gets going, it really gets going. Okay.
Anyway, Durarara.
Yeah, Durarara. You can tell that it's similar to Baccano, because it's got it's got a large rotating cast of characters who are all involved in the criminal underworld, except instead of Chicago and the Mafia, it's like Ikebukuro and the different gangs. It's got characters who are like sort of... They've got they're like superhuman powers, but not like crazy, like shooting lasers out of their asses powers, right? Got like lots of like sort of whimsical characters who are like sort of smarmy. This will make sense if you've seen either Baccano or Durarara. Yeah, it's definitely got like that same signature. Like the shows are not like 1-to-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like, oh, okay, yeah. It makes sense how this person made it. The other person. Yeah. I don't think I've seen enough to say if I like it or not. Because here's the thing that I like. The thing about Durarara. Okay, fuck. I knew I was gonna mess up. The thing about Durarara is that like the episodes start and then stuff happens. And then the episode ends. And it doesn't really, on the one hand, it doesn't really feel like there was like an arc that really connected the beginning to the end. But also, I was pretty into what was happening. So it's like, I can't really tell where the show is going after seeing just a couple episodes. But I'm also down for whatever it wants to do. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
There are things in Durarara I have feelings about, and we'll come back to those when Mo gets to them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we said we wanted this to be a short episode, so I think
we went for an hour.
It has been an hour, though. I think if you cut out some of the stuff, it's definitely going to be an hour. Who are we kidding?
It's like a little bit shorter than normal, maybe.
I like how when I was talking to Rob, they were like, "We should probably make this a short episode," and I was like, "Yeah," and they were like, "We stay before we go on for an hour," and that's literally what happened. Like, no cap.
What specific? I see the issue is that we're too strong of a combo. It's just very easy to talk.
Yeah.
But I digress. Closing words. If you want to come on the Critical Weeb Theory podcast, it's not too late. Focus.
We'll probably schedule you in for like April. Is the thing.
We have to.
Yeah. Like literally all the slots through the end of February into March are like covered. So.
Okay. But on the other hand, you've got a bunch of cool people who are going to be coming on to talk about things we never would have thought to talk about. So
yeah,
it's going to be very cool. You should be very excited.
I'm excited.
Hell yeah.
I'm excited.
Fucking.
I'm sorry I took it from you.
All right.
That
Is there anything else we need to say?
I don't think so.
Y'all are cool.
Thanks so much.
All right.
This has been Mo Black. Even this.
And the other one that gets forgotten.
No.
Pronouns are anything other than, you know the deal.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see you guys.
Yeah.
With Geass.